Good morning, everyone. Welcome to a Star Trek Picard Talkback. My co-host today is Josh Pritchett. Josh, do you want to say hello?
Good morning, all Federation starships in the Alpha, Beta, Gamma, and Delta quadrants. You are on with engaging with Picard. Chris, how was your vacation?
Oh, thank you, Josh. Well, I just entered the room. So I was away for a week, as many of you know. But it was a lot to talk about.
We're getting a hailing frequency there.
We are getting a hailing frequency. It looks like someone's trying to tell us something. I'm gonna see if I can try and see what's happening.
Yeah.
It looks like it's a. Oh no!
Oh! Red alert!
It's a red alert.
What's going on?
I don't know.
What? Find out.
It's a priority communication from Starfleet. Let me see what it says. Stand by.
Okay.
Captain Shaw, Liam, if you still can't trust us, fine. At least trust your own eyes.
It seems to be a sequence. Is that a Starfleet getting ready to fire on someone?
Get us out of here the second the warport comes back online. Battle stations, head to your nearest designated post and prepare for further instructions. All non-essential personnel return to quarters. Starfleet has been compromised. Emergency order 762 Alpha now in effect.
Who are you? Show ya!
Are you a changeling?
No! Are you a changeling?
No!
I would expect the changelings to say that!
I would too! I don't know if you're a changeling. You don't know if I'm a changeling. I've been away a week. I guess we need to let the audience decide by the end of the show if one of us is a changeling.
Yes. Okay, so anybody watching us today, please chime in and let us know who you think. Who is the changeling?
That's right.
Oh yeah. And this is also why we never do the show together. We do it in separate locations. We are both armed. It could get out of hand.
We compromise risk. So, Josh, what an episode.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Honestly, some years ago, I did a top 50 list of favorite Star Trek episodes for the 50th anniversary. And I'm going to have to revise it now because we're going to have to add this episode. It was 50 episodes from all the TV shows that had been on to that point. So now we're going to have to revise the list, obviously, and this is going to probably make the top 10 for me easily. We had a lot happen here. We had somebody I was not expecting showed up. I was totally blown away by this, and I think without further ado, we should get into the recap. So, Chris, you want to start us off?
I absolutely agree, Josh. So we start off with, it seems like everything is okay. Jack is on the bridge in uniform, and then he proceeds to kill everybody. And we see it's actually a dream sequence. And so the Titan has managed to limp its way back to the edge of Federation space, and they're conducting needed repairs. And one of the things they need to do is, one, talk about how a changeling got on board, and two, return command to Captain Liam Shaw, which Riker proceeds to do after they talk about how they've got to go back and face the music with the Federation. But Shaw being Shaw, as soon as he has command codes back, reveals to them that he already contacted Starfleet and that they are on their way. And then he decides to leave them all being Seven, Riker, and Picard, so they can, as he says, get their bullshit story straight. At which point Picard decides that he's going to take the brunt of what happens when Starfleet gets there. And he has to talk with Beverly and with Jack. Beverly agrees that he needs to conduct an autopsy of the changeling they killed because she doesn't think this is over. And Jack reminds Picard that he's a brilliant man, but he doesn't often observe what he needs to see, and that he doesn't want to have anything to do with Starfleet. And just when you think things couldn't get worse, oh, they can, because as they're going down the turbo lift to greet the Intrepid who has arrived, and whoever's coming from the Intrepid has said that they are going to get shuttle with Captain Chalfon's kind of interesting. And so the shuttle arrives, and as they're going down the turbo lift, Saw reminds them that even though they saved the universe, they've almost destroyed it a lot of times, and that they have a chicken and egg thing going on between Riker and Picard. And Picard just kind of laughs and says, like, those were the days, and Riker laughs as well. And so they both are walking down the hallway, and from the opposite side of the hallway, we see someone in Starfleet uniform coming to meet them, and they turn the corner, and it's Ensign Ro Laren, or I should say Commander Ro Laren, someone we have not seen in a very long time. And they are both startled to see her, and she says that she's going to conduct questioning of them, and that they are being evaluated for possible treason, which irks Picard in no small way, and it just irks him to see her there. And that's sort of the A plot of the storyline. Josh, do you want to talk a little bit about what's going on with the son of Morg and the daughter of the House of Massacre?
Yes. So after the Worf and Raffi have eliminated one changeling, they are still on station, and they are practicing some martial arts, mostly so Worf can kind of get Raffi's head in the right place, because she's frustrated and angry. She wants to take action. Worf's like, no, we must wait. And then, for our next course of action. Because it turns out Worf has a handler as well, and he is waiting to hear from his handler. So the next logical move is to go to the Dyson station, where the Dyson Institute station, and do a forensic examination, see what the hell got stolen from there. And suddenly they get a message from Worf's handler. Okay, request denied to go there, so they have to figure out another thing to do. So Raffi hits on the idea, hey, there's got to be a connection from the Ferengi we killed a couple of episodes ago, and Worf goes through the suspects list, and it turns out that there is a Vulcan criminal by the name of Crag. Very strange name for a Chris. Thank you. Very strange name for a Vulcan, of course. And they decide, okay, let's go find him and make him talk. Okay, so that's where it leaves. And then back aboard the Titan, Commander Ro is not in the mood for any pleasantries from Riker, and is deflecting a lot of rage from Picard, because he is still raw 30 years after the fact that she turned her back on Starfleet and betrayed them for the Maquis. There's a lot of hostility there. So she tells Riker to leave, and she starts questioning Picard one-on-one about his actions. And then, meanwhile, back at sickbay, Beverly is autopsying the changeling and has discovered some very scary things. Like, for example, when she dissects the changeling body, it has organs, but when they take them out, of course, they revert back to their gelatinous form. So she acknowledges that basically the changelings have evolved to a point where they're not just mimicking the outside of somebody. They can mimic a human or any other life form down to the basic structure. So traditional detecting methods like blood scans and that sort of thing are not going to work. Excuse me. So they're kind of in a perplexing situation. So she sends a secret text to Picard, in which Picard realizes that Ro may not be Ro, that she may in fact be a changeling, and he starts pointing out things. He starts really digging into her about their past relationship, about why she is not wearing her Bajoran earring. Finds finally, she takes him down to the holodeck on a premise that initially she's going to transfer him over to the Intrepid, where they came from, and instead takes him to the holodeck where the bar simulation is still going on. And they go in there and they keep hashing out their differences about how she betrayed him and she was angry at him for her asking her to take a mission to infiltrate the Maquis terrorist group, which was an anti-Cardassian group of Federation citizens who were opposed to a treaty that gave away several of their planets to the Cardassians. So she feels like this has gone back and forth, and then he points out about her earring being gone. And Chris, you want to go from there?
It's a devastating talk. And we'll talk more about this in the good of the show, but it's reminiscent of when Picard and Beverly have their discussion about Jack, their son. I mean, raw emotions are just laid out. And as Picard says, I prepared for this conversation for 30 years. I mean, these are two people who really loved each other and they really hurt each other. And so just raw emotions are just exposed in an intense back and forth between Picard and Ro while they're pointing phasers at each other, each one not trusting the other, until Picard finally breaks and says, you broke my heart. And then Ro says, and you broke mine. And you just can feel the waves of pain between the two characters. And then Ro lowers her phaser, and so does Picard. And he says, well, if there's one thing this moment has taught us, is that the pain we each are feeling, that can't be mimicked by any changeling. We both are who we say we are. And it's just such an intense moment. And Picard then says, like, Ro, what are you doing here? And the shields are dropped for both of them. And Ro just says, like, you know, do you trust me? And Picard says, yes. And she says, Starfleet has been infiltrated at the highest level. And after that intense moment, we shift back to Talos and District 6, where Worf and Raffi have gone looking for the warlord Kreen and Vulcan warlord, Crime Lord. And they do manage to bring him out, but he appears to have the jump on them because Raffi was using a hollow emitter to simulate he was there when he was actually farther away, covering them with a rifle. But he gets exposed, and Kreen is a very logical Vulcan warlord. He says that there can be no utopia without crime, so therefore organized crime is logical. And he's very upset by what happened to Spleen, which he said was his brother. Worf, being Worf, points out, well, unless I'm mistaken, you're Vulcan, and he was from Ferenginar. And I want to say that and talk about this more in the good, he's played by Kirk Acevedo, who's also an alumni from 12 Monkeys, who is the show that Terry Matalas, who runs the current show, used to run. And so, to his amusement, he says, like, why don't you guys fight to the death? And so there's a fight, and you know, the fact that Raffi doesn't seem to want to fight, Worf does, and Kreen says, Vulcans seldom disappoint. I mean, Klingons seldom disappoint. But in this case, there will be disappointment from the Klingons because Raffi, after an intense fight, stabs Worf and appears to win. And then Worf's carcass is dragged off, and, you know, Kreen walks up to her, being Raffi, and says, now you work for me because I know that you have family here on this planet. And Raffi's like, I'll never work for you. And then the lights dim, and then you hear people getting stabbed in the background. And Kreen is like, what the heck? And all of a sudden you see Worf very much alive with his blade to Kreen's throat. And Worf says that he has mastered the art of Kahless, of making it appear that you are dead by lowering your body to and your heart rate to almost imperceptible levels. And Raffi says, how are you doing? And he says, well, I've lost quite a bit of blood here. And Kreen says, well, I know you're not going to kill me because you need the information I have. And then Raffi points out, yeah, but have you factored in that my friend is a Klingon and he's bleeding quite badly? And so then Kreen agrees to tell them how he aided the changelings in besting security of Daystrom Station, and agrees to provide them with the tech he gave them to beat the defenses of the Institute and penetrate it. So then the scene shifts again, and the conversation is being had in the holodeck between Ro and Picard, and she talks about how she's conducted an extensive investigation and that the changelings are trying something. They've been 12 incidences on ships with changelings. It's been covered quite well, very hush hush. She thinks it has something to do with Frontier Day, where the entire fleet is going to be on display. And she says that she's tried to warn people higher up in Starfleet. She's even gone to the media. There's another mention of Admiral Janeway, but nothing has worked. And she has two operatives on the ground, that she trusts, and they're trying to link the portal weapon that was used on the recruitment center for Starfleet with the weapon that Picard says was used against them by Vadic. And she just tells him, listen, you have to be very careful and trust no one. And they are walking out of the holodeck, and they find her security detail, which has been looking for Jack, who has been hidden in plain sight by Seven. And here you have the other really raw, emotional moment between Ro and Picard, where she just looks at him, hands him something, and says, I just wished all these years you could have seen me and known that what I did was like what I thought was best in my heart. And I wish I could have seen you all these years. And it's just, this is it. This is quite possibly the last time these characters are going to see each other. And then she turns around and she tells Picard, listen, I've ordered most of the crew taken off the ship. I've left you with the skeleton crew. You've got to run. It's up to you now. And I'll buy you some time with the Intrepid. I don't trust any of them on there, not even the captain. And then she turns around and tells her security detail, we're leaving. And the security detail's like, wait a minute. We were told we had to bring back Jack Crusher. And she says, we're leaving, in that Ro way of you're not going to question me. And then they walk away, and Picard looks at his hand, and he sees that he has the Bajoran earring. Josh, do you want to take us home?
Yeah. So Ro, they're back on the shuttle, Ro and her security detail, and they are flying back to Intrepid. And suddenly the two security guards pull out a bomb, set it up. Ro's like, what the hell are you doing? And then they beam off, and she realizes, oh, hell, they're going to blow me up. And she calls the Titan, tells him what's going on, and Liam panics. He calls security to arrest Picard and Riker because he doesn't want to believe that, okay, there's this changeling conspiracy goes all the way to the top ranks of Starfleet. Riker has to talk him back down, says, Liam, you've seen with your own eyes what's going on. And then we hear Liam Shaw send out the red alert that Starfleet has been compromised at the highest levels, and they prepare to run. The Intrepid fires up its weapons and shields, but Ro manages to fly the shuttle with the bomb into its port nacelle, thereby crippling its warp drive. But before she does that, she sends a message to Picard, telling what's going on, that she's about to die. Picard says in a very heartfelt moment, I do see you, Ro. And they are unable to beam her off because the changelings have also activated a transporter dampening field. So this is the end, and she makes one last heroic move, as I said, blows up the port nacelle. And then Picard is sitting in the conference room holding Ro's earring. Riker comes in, and Riker says, wait a minute, I don't think that's why she left you the earring, just to remember. And he presses the earring down onto the computer pad in the table, and it opens up all the file data that Ro has collected about the changeling conspiracy. Then they get a message from somebody. They open it. It's from Worf. And it turns out, as if it hadn't been obvious already, Ro was Worf's handler. And he asks, where's Commander Ro? And that's where the episode ends. And that takes us now into the good, the bad, and the Gorn. And Chris, what did we think was best about this episode? I know what I think it is, but what did you think was best?
I mean, Everything about this episode was exceptional. Even down to the small details. For example, there's a moment in the episode where they are looking for known associates of Spleen, and Worf says when they're aboard La Sirena, "I have an idea," and a name scroll down of people who are known associates of Spleen. And who do we see on that list? But we see Brunt of Ferenginar. We see Morn of Luria. And perhaps best of all, Thadian Okana of Omega.
Oh dear, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So even the details for this episode, I mean, there's the old spared no expense. Well, they spared no detail to bring us like a quality episode. So, I mean, that and just this raw emotional scenes of hurt, not understanding, the lack of communication for 30 years that you see between Ro and Picard, especially at that bar scene when they have the phasers pointed at each other. And she talks about how chafing it was to be under like his eternal watch and how he's confused duty with caring. And it's just this pent up raw emotion of two people who actually care for each other deeply. And they just let it all out in that moment. I mean, brilliant acting on both actors. Again, I want to say it's right up there with the scene in the sickbay when Beverly and Picard have their talk about Jack. I mean, it's just brilliant, and it's just a brilliant tour de force from everyone involved. Even when Ro is about to sacrifice herself, and Picard is like, "I see you now. Forgive me, it was only here at the end, but I see you." It was just like this recognition on his part that, this woman was like a daughter to me, and like I was mad for so many years for all the wrong reasons, and it was just the Picard Ro relationship, I think, was the heart of this episode.
Yeah, it really. I mean, Ro Laram first appeared in an episode of season 5 of Star Trek: The Next Generation called Ensign Ro, and she was very much a different kind of Starfleet officer than what we had seen. I mean, we were used to kind of seeing, I think, the idealistic officers like Picard and Worf and Kirk and Spock and all those guys. And then occasionally we would see the disillusioned or, the traitorous one like, I can't think of his name, from the episode, the Omega Directive from the original series, who basically just threw the Prime Directive out the window and for personal gain. But Ro was this person that would become disgruntled because she did not come from, like Tasha Yar, she didn't come from an idealistic situation. She came from her family had escaped occupied Bajor, which was occupied at that point by the Cardassian Empire. And she eventually, instead of joining the Bajoran Resistance, she decided to join Starfleet at a time when the Federation was still at war with the Cardassians. This is before the Dominion War. So this was the first Federation-Cardassian War. And I think she had hopes that one day she would be flying in back to Bajor aboard a Starfleet vessel after liberating her people with the help of the Federation. And that did not happen. We never knew what exactly got her in trouble the first time, but it was pretty serious, and she ended up going to prison for it and was busted from lieutenant back down to ensign when she was brought aboard the Enterprise. But then when she was finally able to trust Picard, they were able to save these Bajorans and also expose a Cardassian plot. So Picard started to take her under his wing and try to make her into an ideal Starfleet officer. And for a while, it seemed to work out. Eventually, she went to Starfleet Advanced Tactical Training, came back as a full lieutenant again. But then Starfleet wanted Picard to send her on an infiltration mission into the Maquis to infiltrate and try to break up this Maquis cell. And after she had become friends over several weeks with the Maquis, she felt she could not go against them, that they were justified in what they were doing. And so she went AWOL and join the Maquis. And of course, this broke Picard's heart, as he said. It really upset him. And it was so nice that they could have them come back together after all this time and finally bring that relationship to a close. You bring that story. And I think this speaks to one thing, Chris, that goes to the one of the things we've seen over these past 3 seasons with Picard is resolving things in his life, making peace with things, trying to fix things he couldn't fix before. Data's death, seeing Q again, Beverly, his son, now Ro. It's almost like, we're getting to the end here, and it's like there's all these loose threads that he once talked about in the episode Tapestry, where he talked about these little things in his life that he wished had gone differently. And, he once plucked a string from this tapestry and almost brought his whole life out unraveled it. But what happens now, that he's going to finally fix these loose threads of his existence? That's what we're going to find out, I think, in the next 5 episodes as we continue on in this adventure.
So one of the things I loved about how wise the producers of the show are, they seem to have taken a page out of Marvel, and they've shown us a bunch of characters that we anticipate are going to come back. Like, we know we've seen scenes with like Lore with Moriarty, but never once did they show us an image of Ensign Ro. So it's sort of like what Marvel did with Civil War, where they very carefully kept out the part where we were going to see a giant man until you saw the movie. And so here they very cleverly kept out we were going to see Ro again until we actually saw the episode, which makes you think over the course of the next 5 episodes that we have, like, who else might be popping up that we've been distracted so much by, like, oh, these are the next generation cast members that are returning. Who might they on the slide be also returning? So, very enthused about this. And I also want to just shout out, I loved Kirk Acevedo's performance as a Kreen. First of all, the idea of a Vulcan crime lord, brilliant. You kind of got a hint in Star Trek Strange New Worlds. So, there are rehabilitation centers, which means that Vulcans can go astray. Our best example is Cybok up until now, but why wouldn't a Vulcan go astray and become a crime lord? Like he said, there can be no perfect society without crime. Ergo, having a crime lord is logical, and so he plays it with just the right amount of menace. I love the fact that one of his neighbors is mangled, and I also just love the fact, another salute to 12 Monkeys, that Kirk Acevedo also played the best friend of Cole in 12 Monkeys, and Cole was portrayed by the same actor who also portrayed Spleen. So best friends in 12 Monkeys, best friends in Picard. Similarities between the timelines, right? But he's just such a great actor, and he brings just the right of quiet menace. And in that scene, I also really liked we get a mobile emitter. Up until now, we've seen the holograms aboard the ship, although we probably are not going to see the holograms of Captain Rios again aboard this La Sirena for obvious reasons. But I just love the fact that we get to see, hey, some of the tech that came back with Voyager is now gone mainstream. So I love that on purpose they take out the mobile emitter. And it was, I thought, a very brilliantly choreographed fight. And I'm sure you have a few words about that fight.
Really a brilliant fight scene. I'm sure that there are some scenes that Michael himself is actually doing for close-up shots, but I'm sure they've also got a very good stunt double that's doing a lot of that. I love the fact that, okay, Worf decides to fake his death, that he's so clever about it, and he says, I have mastered the art, Kalas's art of faking my death, that he's able to slow his heart. And of course, one of the things Kalas imparted was the laws of logic, but also, not logic, honor, the laws of honor, but also the methods of which to fight, and the Klingon martial arts, the Dahar, the highest pinnacle. So even though he has not actually said, I am a Dahar master now, I think it's pretty plain to most fans. Yes, he is. He has become this, and he has mastered all the levels of the Klingon martial arts. So I am hoping they will talk more about that as the series evolves, or possibly in a Star Trek Worf series. We can only hope. Keep our fingers crossed for that, folks. I would, also, I think, again, like I said, the fight scene was really good. It was very well choreographed. It was almost up there with the fight scenes you see on Cobra Kai. I want to go more into the logic of crime lords, but I'm going to say that for the GORN part of the show today, because I wanted to say something about that.
That's good.
Yeah, and
so the other final thing I'll say is we are seeing. I love how they're handling the evolution of Captain Shaw. That he's still a bit of an ass.
Yeah.
Because he waits until they return the command codes to him, and then he says, "Oh, by the way, I did contact Starfleet." and then he's humming in the elevator as he's taking them to their certain court-martial. And, I'm just chipper, not because you guys are about to get your asses handed. I'm just chipper. And then when Picard returns to them, he's like, well, that's the fastest court-martial I ever saw, because he fully expects them to get court-martialed because he's evolving, but he still hasn't gotten to that point that he's not an ass yet. So
yeah,
he may have taken another step there when he decided to trust his own eyes when the Intrepid is about to fire on them. And he's like, yeah, we do have to go on the run, but they're slow burning it with his evolution. So I like that. So the changelings are not the only ones who are evolving. Captain Shaw is as well.
Yeah, I think with Shaw. And I just want to point this out, and I'm gonna kind of open up about myself here. He and I both kind of are having, a lot of we have a lot of emotional issues from past earlier life traumas, and I see that in him, and it makes me sympathize with this character. And the thing with Shaw is he needs to have, like he says in the first time we meet him, and he talks about his musical taste. I like structure. Yes, because he has to function in this square box. Once something goes outside the box, he blows up. He doesn't know what to do. He's not able to adapt. And it does say something about, okay, Starfleet hiring practices, because this does not seem like something we've ever seen before in a Starfleet captain, that he's that off, that he can't adapt. But when he finally realizes, yeah, I can't deny this anymore. Something is really wrong. And Starfleet is compromised. I have to protect my ship and crew. And, when he's finally called to action, like you said, he does a great job. He steps up to the plate, but it takes him a lot to get there. And he has a lot of rage at Picard, about the fact that, his friends were killed at Wolf 359. It's been with him for 30 years. He's still raw about it. He sees Picard. He's like, why are you still here and my friends aren't? He does. I think there's some resentment towards Riker as well, because it's like, okay, Riker was captain of a Titan before me, and he probably had this big, adventure. And when he feels like I have to justify myself, I have to tell you my record. I want to be acknowledged. I want you to, everybody talks about how great Captain Riker was. And it's like, and I'm just Liam Shaw, grease monkey, asshole from Chicago, and he really shouldn't look at himself that way, because the fact that he's the captain of a starship really, should say something. He should be able to say it, but he's frustrated himself. And I see that in me too. So, I feel for him a lot. So he gets a lot of sympathy from me. But at the same time, we kind of need him to step up here, and he's stepping up to the plate. He's finally realized, yeah, Picard and Riker are not the problem. We have something going wrong in the upper echelons of Starfleet, and we seem to be the only ones who can take the stand. So my hat's off to Liam, and I hope he keeps going. But I do also hope he maybe gets a little bit of talk time with Deanna.
Yeah, he does need it. So
Yeah.
Before we transition to the bad, I want to invite everyone who's listening to us, send us in your thoughts about Shaw. Evolving guy? No, just solid asshole. Oops. Let us know in the chat. But let's go in.
And don't forget, you got to tell us who you think is the changeling.
That's right. Tell us who you think is the changeling. You've got 2 tasks right now for you.
Yes. So you gotta. Which of us is it, folks?
Otherwise, mutual destruction for the both of us.
Oh yeah, we may not be here next week.
Yeah, we may not be here.
Yeah. Okay. So in the bad, what do you got for us? I don't really have any complaints. I don't think.
So my bad is, why haven't they given us this much earlier? This episode was brilliant. I have nothing bad. I mean, like you said at the start, Josh, I'm ranking this in my top overall episodes of The Next Generation and Starfleet, period. I mean, it was absolutely brilliant. By the way, it was directed by the same person who directed Memento Mori, which is the episode from Strange New Worlds involving the trap set for the Enterprise by the Gorn. Just brilliant. I have nothing to complain about this episode. My only complaint is, again, if you are capable of delivering this high quality of an episode for us as viewers, why wait until now?
Yeah.
Why wait 2 seasons? Why did we have to go through that second season? If you could deliver this, I mean, for me, the more that I see this, the more that I think this easily could have been season 1 of Picard. I mean, because if you think about it, Picard is just connected to the Next Generation. One cannot function ideally without the other. So what was missing from the first 2 seasons? It was the Next Generation cast. I mean, I want to see what's happened next. I want to learn what happened to Ro. I want to learn what happened to Worf. And now we are seeing what happened. So what is my bad? That we didn't get this sooner, because each episode has been even better than the previous episode.
Exactly. This is something I've said for 30 plus years about the biggest difference between the original Star Trek and Star Trek The Next Generation. The original Star Trek started out, it was about the adventures of Kirk and Spock and McCoy, and sometimes Scotty. And then you had all the other characters in there. It's not until you got into Star Trek's 2, 3, and 4 that it became more about also Uhura, Chekhov, and Sulu and Scotty all the time. So because, that was something Leonard Nimoy insisted on, that they all had to be able to bring something to the films. Star Trek The Next Generation was from the beginning an ensemble story. It was never just Picard and Data and Worf and sometimes everybody else. No, it was everybody. Everybody got to bring something every episode for 7 seasons. And that was something I think hurt the movies, because the movies began to focus more, I think, on Picard and Data and sometimes Worf, and the other people were just kind of there. And even though Jonathan Frakes was directed 2 of them, they kind of got away sometimes from the ensemble cast. And you see this chemistry even when they do group appearances at Comic-Con, that there's this comfort level between them that you didn't always see with the original, because William Shatner just created a lot of tension there. But even though Patrick Stewart has become a huge name in Hollywood, he's still very clearly very close friends with his crew members. And maybe the whole thing about Picard, maybe the whole thing from the beginning, should have been a Star Trek miniseries where they could have just done this story arc. Maybe they could have had some elements, something with Q and something with Data from but it should have been this story. And I think Patrick Stewart would have still gone for it. I think that given the talent that came to bear in writing this, I think there would have been a lot there. And it's unfortunate that, we had to wait till almost the 11th hour till we got a truly worthy Star Trek story, a truly worthy story with these heroes that we've loved for so long. And you know, you and I both talked endlessly about how disappointed we were in Star Trek Nemesis. That was supposed to be the big finale, and it was such a letdown. Damn you, Stuart Bard, you bastard. And having them come back 20 years later and do this, and this is really our final ending. This is the ending we deserve. This is, you know, this is our undiscovered country. You know, yes, this is where we get to finally have. Thank you. Yeah. This is our big goodbye to them. This is how we want to remember them, as the heroes they always were. None of the silly slapstick crap we got in Nemesis or Insurrection or any of those movies. We get a real goodbye to our friends, and we get to take it seriously, and we get to see them at their best. Of course, this may not be a complete goodbye, because, you know, we might still get a Worf series. We might get 7, might still be around. But I think for Jean-Luc Picard and William Riker, Deanna Troi Riker, Dr. Beverly Crusher, and Geordi LaForge, whom we have not seen yet. It's like, come on, hurry up. We only get 5 episodes. Where's Geordi? That's my big bad. We've got something here. And, you know, I think we're going to have a great finale here. We're going to have an ending to this story that we can all be proud of finally.
So let's go into the Gorn, and I'm very eager to hear what you have to say about Vulcan crime lords.
Yes. Okay. So this is about both Vulcan crime lords and Vulcan logic in general. And Chris is correct. You cannot have a utopian society without crime. And the Soviet Union was supposed to be an idealistic society, and yet crime went rampant. They didn't acknowledge it, but it was rampant. There was a lot of stuff, whether it was black marketeering or murder or sex crimes or whatever. It did happen. Now, the thing about logic, as we have come to learn over the last 55 years since Mr. Spock said those words, said, I am logical. I do not let emotion govern my decisions. Or words to that effect, really. We've tried to believe in this idea with Vulcans that this idea that logic dictates all their actions. But what does logic mean? And the thing is, for anyone, they can logically justify anything, no matter how good or bad, just because they feel like they have to, they can justify it to themselves. And the most logical thing is, of course, for any being is to survive at all costs. Well, yeah, that's true. And in this case, I think that the Vulcan crime lord has definitely tried to survive and prosper in what he feels is the most logical way to do it. Never mind that, okay, a different Vulcan might say, well, the most logical thing is if I'm not doing well on this planet, I should try to get myself off this planet and find a place where I can thrive and I can be my best self. But clearly, Chris is not going to do that. He wants to stay there. He likes being a crime lord. And like any good psychopath, he finds any way he can to justify what he does, as long as he continues to survive and prosper. I mean, when Worf has the knife to his neck, clearly he knows, yeah, the jig's up. There's no point in fighting this. I've lost. I want to survive. I want to get out of this. So he's just going to rat out the changelings. He's going to tell them what he did, because he knows it, Worf will kill him if he doesn't talk. So yeah, it is really fascinating, but at the same time, it does kind of bring, it does make us acknowledge that, yeah, Vulcans are not as enlightened as we thought they were, that they have flaws, and they do have people who are willing to do all kinds of terrible things, and they still consider them logical, even though Spock himself and Tuvok and T'Pol would all find these things morally reprehensible, as would any sane person. And I think that says something really brilliantly about this character. And you pointed out about the rehabilitation centers that we saw on Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Yes, there are Vulcans, and not just Strange New Worlds, but also in season 2 of Enterprise, when T'Pol went on a mission to recapture a Vulcan operative who had gone rogue and was surgically disguised to look human. And this guy had totally justified all of his crimes as being what he considered to be logical. And at a certain point, I guess logic is just whatever you could justify it being. It is absolutely logical for me to walk into this room and kill all these people. So at a certain point, and as I've said, one thing we've learned over the last 55 years is that you cannot just be unemotional. You cannot be detached. It doesn't make you smarter. In fact, it just makes you more ambivalent. It makes you less smarter. So, as Spock said once, logic is just the beginning of wisdom. It's not the end. So, while logic can be a great tool for problem solving and even working out differences, it's not the end all be all. You have to balance this with compassion and joy and love for another person. Otherwise, you're just a psychopath. You just feel like doing this. And I've gone too long. So, Chris, what do you got for me?
No, that's fine. I also agree with you. I loved how the survival instinct just kicks in. And like you said, anything can be logical if it justifies your survival. So when he has Worf holding the knife at his throat, of course it's logical to give them everything they want because, as you said, he realizes the gig is over. I want to keep on living. I don't care about the change things. I just care that this angry Klingon has his knife to my throat, and he doesn't believe in logic. The logical thing would be to keep me alive for interrogation. He's just going to kill me because he already killed Spleen, and he needed information from Spleen. And so I want to keep my head. So I love that part quite a bit.
Yeah.
So an overall question I have is, as we know from season 1 of Picard, Starfleet intelligence was already compromised because the head of Starfleet intelligence turned out to be a Romulan. And so considering that this infiltration may have been going on for a while, is it possible that a Romulan head of security knew what was going on and then just looked the other way because he thought this is going to devastate the Federation, which is good for the Romulan Empire?
Well, whatever's left of the Romulan Empire. Yeah, I don't see why not. I don't. Because if we're thinking about this as a straight through, if you've got some Romulan dissidents who feel like, hey, things started going wrong for our empire when we joined forces with the Federation and the Klingons to fight the Dominion War, we could have sat that whole war out. And it is kind of like you do have people 70 years after the fact who still go around saying that, hey, we should have stayed out of World War II. We should have let the Soviets and the Europeans fight it out with Hitler. We shouldn't have gotten involved in that. It was completely stupid, even though things turned out very well and they would not have survived if we hadn't joined. And the world would be a much more horrible place if we hadn't. But yeah, I'm sure that probably that was the character's name. Probably looked at it and thought, yeah, why not? I'll just go ahead and let this happen because it could in the short term or the long term help us rebuild the Romulan Empire. And if the Federation is left bloodied and bruised and broken, that's just fine. We can step in, let the whole galaxy go to hell in a handbasket.
So along those same lines, we've heard a lot about Starfleet intelligence. I mean, clearly Ro was working in Starfleet intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
We've heard one mention of Section 31. Is it possible that O, in charge of Starfleet intelligence, may have also gutted Section 31 to the point that, they exist in name, but they're ineffectual because such a sizable threat, don't you think up till now we would have not only heard from Starfleet intelligence, but also from their more diehard branch, which seemed to run operations separately?
Yeah, Section 31 is not above, going hardcore, doing things that, regular intelligence wouldn't do and regular Starfleet wouldn't do, that they don't squeam from that. I mean, you want to go with logic. Yes, I'm sure there are Vulcan operatives in Section 31 who basically see no problem, think it's perfectly logical to do a deep, painful mind meld on a suspect if it saves the Federation. If it saves 1 million lives, they'll do it because it's logical to do. I'm harping on Vulcans here today, I know, but I mean, I like Vulcans just fine, so don't mind meld me. But
you're changeling.
Yeah, we're still on that, folks. Yeah. Okay, but yeah, I mean, so yeah, that's a good point. Where is Section 31 in all this? And are they going to come in and provide intelligence to Picard and team before this is all over? And have they gone silent? Have they okay, something's up, we're going silent, because you never know who's regular intelligence and who's Section 31. That's always been the brilliancy, that anybody could be Section 31. You don't know. We're talking about which of us is a changeling. Which of us is Section 31, folks?
True. That's
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I kind of think it's Mr. Pabon, but I don't want to say.
That's exactly the thing a Section 31 operative would say, to have people look the other way.
Yeah.
Josh, do you want to talk about predictions for the final 5 episodes?
Okay, well, I can predict. I think I'm very safe on safe ground to say that Geordi will be there soon. Better be in their next episode. I thought he was going to be in this episode, but it's like, come on, guys, we're getting into the weeds here. We need to get Geordi in there. I am still hoping, and there's a hint of this. Maybe this will happen. But you know how they're doing when they do the ending credits scene, and they flash by all the instrument panels, and there's this one that says Starfleet Museum, and it's listing all these ships. It's like, I'm still hoping Geordi is going to pull a Galaxy-class starship out of mothballs, and they're just going to rename her Enterprise. At least I'm hoping. I do think we are going to have a big calamity here of Starfleet. Some vessels are probably going to get destroyed. A lot of people are going to get hurt, killed. And there is one other prediction. There's one other thing I want to talk about. We forgot to talk about in our update. Jack has one more big vision, and he's seeing these tendrils, and he's hearing his mother's voice saying, "Come to me," or "Come find me." It's clearly not Beverly. And there is a rumor going around the net that says Jack might be possessed by a Pa-wraith. And you know what that means? Does that mean the emissary will return? If he shows up, you want to talk about a Marvel moment. The internet is going to lose its collective mind if he shows up. That would be cool. I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen, but I'm saying that would be really cool.
So my predictions go along your first one, which is, so we know they're going to be hunted because Liam Shaw asks, they're coming after us. The question is who? And Riker just says everyone, because they're going to get framed for this, and they're going to say, well, this ship is full of changelings. And so you kind of hard to hide a starship. Where's the one place you can hide a ship where there are other ships? And so I think they're going to take the Titan to hide among all these ships at the Starfleet Museum in Alton Prime. And so that's how you're going to get Geordi. Because they're going to park it there while they try to then infiltrate Daystrom Station. And that's how we get Geordi. And that's how we're going to get Troy, because they need to be in a place stable enough in one place for Troy to come find Riker. So I think that's how we're going to get Troy and Geordi, is that they're going to go to Alton Prime to hide out among the other starships, because they're definitely going to be hunted.
And that's probably where Worf and Rafi are going to join up with them too.
I agree. Completely agree with you. Then the other thing I'm going to predict is that evolution, I think Beverly is right about the changes evolving, but evolution has to take some time. And this seems pretty fast for the last 30 years. So my prediction is that how does lore fit into all of this? That much like Lore tried to perfect the Borg to make them like better, I think we'll find out that Lore played a role in evolving the changelings to the point where they can mimic so effectively human organs. He's trying to make a better changeling.
I think you're right. Yeah, because that's been one of the things about him is that he's always been trying to improve himself, and then he tried to improve the Borg, and then now the changelings. And I think in this sort of his attempt to create his own version of a master race, I guess, is the thing about Lore, and it does speak to him because. If Lore, Data was always about improving. Data and Lore were always about improving themselves, but they went about it two different ways. Data went about it by joining Starfleet, by learning about his human creators, learning about the other people, and empathizing and becoming better. Lore has always been like more Nietzschean, that he's always been trying to usurp. In this case, God, which would be, I'm not saying humanity, he is definitely the Frankenstein monster. He wants more of himself. He wants to usurp his creator. And I think that's going to be, when he shows up, because, unfortunately, that did kind of show up in the trailers, and I wish they hadn't. And I've been saying that all this time, that it would have been kind of cool if we didn't see Lore, but I do think that if that's the case, that Lore's there, then maybe the true villain, because we got the changelings, that's huge. What do they want with Jack? Because it seemed like there's another thing, the changelings did catch Jack, but it seems like when they got him, they didn't seem very threatening. It was more like, hey, we're here, we've got this transporter thing for you, we're going to get you out of here, and then he kills them. Clearly, he still doesn't want to be. Whatever's inside him doesn't want to be captured.
Well, yeah. I mean, clearly they don't want to kill him for whatever reason. But speaking of things that are inside, so my final prediction is when they make it to Daystrom Station. I focus on what Corinne said, that the AI has highly illogical flaws. I think the AI guarding Daystrom Station is Moriarty.
I think you're right. Yeah, and I think he definitely would want to do something to get back at Picard and the gang for screwing him over. So, anyway, we've got to wrap this up.
Yep.
But before we go, I'd like to acknowledge the passing of actor Lance Riddick.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Yeah,
he was, a brilliant actor who, over the last 20 years, started such great things as The Wire, Oz, Fringe. Great show. A lot of people have sort of forgotten. Bosch, and of course he is best known as the hotel manager from the John Wick films. He was a brilliant actor. He died much too young, and I'm only 52, so that's kind of scary for me too. So our thoughts go out to him and his family, and it's very sad. So Chris, where can we find you?
Well, Joss, I'm going to tell all our listeners where they can find the both of us, because both Joss and I will be at GalaxyCon Richmond next Saturday.
Yes, we will. Woohoo!
And we'll be doing the show there live, pending that it's proven none of us are changelings, of course.
Yes.
So come see us, GalaxyCon Live. On Saturday, we will be having our show. And before then, you can find me on Instagram at Verde Cosplay.
Yes. And of course you can find me, Josh Pritchett Jr. at Facebook. I'm also at the Northern Virginia Star Trek meetup group, which we're always looking for new members. Just go to meetup.org and look for the Northern Virginia Star Trek meetup. And of course, my book, Bigfoot and Other Tales of the Supernatural, is still available on Amazon and Kindle. And I will be signing copies at Shore Leave, and hopefully I will have another book available by then. So with that, I am Josh Pritchett, or am I? Let us know.
I am Chris Pabon, or am I as well? Peace and long life. See you all at GalaxyCon.
See you at GalaxyCon, everybody. Bye-bye.